Remember the time you have really something important to do, and yet after slaving for hours, by the end of the day, could still not get shit done? Well, I've been there, and quite a lot if I'm being honest. Now try to remember the last time you were hyper-productive. You felt so good in your work that time just flew by. You were able to accomplish maybe at least a week's worth of work in a day. Well, that magical moment is called flow. And behind the world's greatest achievement is flow. By the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding what is flow, how we can harness flow, and most importantly, knowledge so that we can stay in flow. Behind mankind's greatest achievement, there was flow. Artists like Da Vinci and Van Gogh produced their greatest work while in the state of flow. Einstein figured out the theory of relativity while in flow. Athletes are immortalized because of flow. Musicians, innovators, inventors, almost in every field of human endeavor, the greatest feats are produced while in the flow state. So what is flow, really? Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the godfather of flow, defined it as the state of being so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The ego falls away, time flies, every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one. Your whole being is involved and you're using your whole skills to the utmost. And everyone, at least once in their life, has experienced flow. Csikszentmihalyi explained that flow is universal and therefore present in everyone regardless of gender, age, culture, and class. The human species is hardwired for flow. It's because of flow that we have thrived. However, why is that flow state is so elusive for a lot of people? Well, it can be that one of the 6 characteristics of flow is missing. Or maybe we aren't just deep enough into flow for us to notice. See, flow is a spectrum, just like any other emotion. For example, when you are angry, you can either be mildly upset or fuming. And if there is one certain group of individuals who constantly bask in deep flow, that would be the action-adventure athletes. Well, for 2 main reasons. 1, if they want to stay alive, they have to find their flow. And 2, they constantly put themselves in death-defying situations to experience flow. Steven Kotler, in his book, The Rise of Superman, wrote the story of these athletes and how they were able to achieve the impossible. And almost all of them share the same experience.
You're in a state of absolute awareness without any effort.
It's definitely the highest form of concentration I've ever experienced.
And I'm just perceiving things much more clearly, much more slowed down than normal.
It's when you're fully in sync, when you're making perfect decisions.
Pretty much everything falls away.
A superior form of consciousness.
It's basically where life makes sense.
So for someone who is uninterested in extreme sports, does this mean that flow will stay elusive to us? Well, lucky for us, there are certain triggers that we can hack so that we can experience flow in a deep level. And ways to enter the cycle of flow and stay longer in flow. To get into flow, there are certain triggers that we can use so that we can initiate it in our life. Csikszentmihalyi first identified 3, and over the years, 19 more triggers have been added for a current total of 22. The idea is, the more flow triggers that you have in a certain situation while doing an activity, the faster you'll be in flow state, the deeper your flow will be, and the longer your flow will last. So here's an example of flow triggers in action. It's championship game, the stadium is packed to capacity with roaring fans, creating an electric atmosphere. The cheers and chants echo throughout the air. Standing at free throw line, your team trailing by 1 point. The title hangs in the balance. The pressure is immense. Focusing solely on making these 2 crucial features, all external distractions must fade away. And as you shoot the first free throw, nothing but net, the crowd erupted to celebrate your achievement. So as you prepare for the second shot, the years of countless training and repetition flashed back. The stakes are high, the situation is daunting, but you are prepared for this moment because you trust your training. There are probably more flow triggers in that scenario. But remember, the more flow triggers you have, the more it is likely for you to be in flow. And for us ordinary folk, we don't have to be in a high-stakes game or death-defying situations to hack these triggers. It can be as chill as going to the beach or new cafe to write. You know, to introduce novelty, complexity, and unpredictability in your daily life. Emotional, social, and mental risk can be substituted for physical risk. You can align yourself with like-minded people who is aiming for similar goals, has the same level of competence, communicates well, and empowers each other to experience group flow. Or you can simply challenge yourself every day to get better at your craft, which will tick off the most important flow trigger among the 22, the challenge to skill ratio. Flow demands that the task we are engaged in exceeds a little bit of our skill set. Too hard of a challenge and we will be frustrated. Too easy and we will be bored. Steven Kotler used the figure 4% as a metaphor for that sweet spot. And don't overcomplicate it, really. When you are doing something, simply ask yourself, is the challenge too difficult? Is it giving me too much anxiety? If the answer is yes, then tone down the difficulty a little bit. And vice versa. If you find it too easy, then make it harder. German philosopher and probably the first truly modern thinker to ever contemplate flow, Friedrich Nietzsche, stated that optimal experience demands suffering and grit. In his book, The Will to Power, he said, "To those human beings who are of any concern to me, I wish suffering, desolation, sickness, ill treatment, indignities. I wish them the only thing that can prove today whether one is worth anything or not, that one endures." Or as he bragged in The Will to Power, "I am more of a battlefield than a man." Because before anyone can enjoy the highs of the flow, one must endure the deep low, which is the first cycle of flow, the struggle. Think about this as your training arc. Before your body moves on its own, it must learn the moves first. The only way to do it is through countless hours of practice and thousands of repetition. And often, this comes with a lot of frustration. For a grappler, this means getting pinned or strangled 1,000 times. For a writer, it's staring at a blank page and punching your desk because your outlines suck. For a musician, it's countless hours of recital. Most people, when they get frustrated, they give up. They stop thinking that they're doing the wrong thing. You must understand that frustration can be a sign that you are moving in the right direction. You must endure the suffering to get to flow. With every training session, this must be followed with a release, which is the second stage of the flow cycle. This means you have to find a medium for rest and relaxation. Because this allows our brain to chew on the problem and what we know so far while we do other stuff. Research shows that low-grade physical activity is the best medium for release. For me, it's hiking, working out, or reading a book. Release is so important because through these activities, we pass the information processing responsibilities from the conscious to the unconscious. And finally, there's the flow. And the best way to stay in flow is to avoid the flow blockers. And the biggest one of them is distractions. Research shows that the #1 thing that knocks people out of flow is interruption. So put your phone in focus mode. Place yourself in an environment where it's conducive for learning and work. And prior to working, set strategies and boundaries so that you can minimize interruptions and distractions as much as possible. I can't express it enough how satisfying it is to be able to tap into flow state, you know, and then look back at the end and see what you've done. And even you are like, how the fuck did I do that, you know? And one of the things that I have done that still amazes me to this day is writing my ebook, The Aesthetic Blueprint. You know, when I was writing it, ideas were flooding in, time was gone just like that, and literally, the book felt like it was writing itself. And I wrote that ebook to share everything that I know and have done to build my body. In that ebook, I've explained why weightlifting and calisthenics is ideal when you want to build an aesthetic physique. I've explained which exercise complements each other, some ways you can organize your training, tips and tricks, to help with your diet and the mindset you can keep when you're training. You can download this ebook for free on my website, and if you are looking for a more personalized action plan and guide, you can also reach out to me by booking a 60-minute call, also absolutely for free. So if you are looking for some changes in your life or the way you train, I'll leave the link in the description below, so feel free to reach out. And finally, this brings me to the last stage of the flow cycle, which is recovery. So basically, what goes up must come down. In recovery, we are recharging our batteries, we replenish the energy we spent, the neurochemicals we used, we are recuperating our energy and integrating the skills and knowledge acquired during the flow. So now that we understand flow, let's talk about how we can stay in flow. Steven Kotler, in his book, The Art of Impossible, literally laid out some actionable guides for us to grab so that we can cultivate flow in our life. The guy literally said, peak performance is a checklist. Basically, we have to spend 90 to 120 minutes of total dedication to our work, which means no phone and no other bullshit to interrupt us. And also, pushing through the struggle. Even if it makes you squirm and die inside, push through it, man. And then, 20 minutes of release. Go and drink some tea, go for a walk, or stare at the wall if that's your thing. Then at least 5 minutes of daily gratitude to facilitate good mood for creativity, and 10 minutes for setting clear goals and strategies to manage distraction for the other day, and most importantly, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day. More details are found in the book, so go get it, man, if you don't have it. And it's literally that simple. You follow this daily checklist, you stack them up, you stay consistent, and you flow every day. But don't overestimate yourself, man. Especially in this world full of instant gratification and cheap thrills. Most people can't even start their work when they need to. And once working, can't stay focused in their work. So here's one trick I've learned from Ryan Doris, Steven Kotler's colleague, to stay engaged and focused in your work. According to him, when we change our positions while working, so when we go from sitting to standing, we actually trick our brain to think it hasn't to work as hard as it actually did, which means you can stay focused, engaged, and be more productive. And researchers can back up the benefits of changing our positions while working. In the 2017 study of Tumia and Ward, their findings suggest that standing for a short term while working can enhance interest, enthusiasm, and alertness to the task. Also, in the 6-month study of Garrett and colleagues, shows that call center agents who are able to stand while working performed better and generated more revenue compared to employees who sat constantly while working. And this strategy does not only improve individual performance, but also group performance, as shown in the findings of Knight and Bear. And with all of that said, I hope that you start incorporating all of this information to constantly harness and bask in flow, so that you can dramatically increase your productivity and achieve the impossibles in your life. My name is Renz Drexel, and I share content regarding fitness, productivity, and self-improvement. If you like my content, you can help me by subscribing and liking this video. Thank you very much. I'll be seeing you next time.